2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, rock. 5, 6, 7.
Hello, my name is Bill Haley, and this is for Haley2024 The Movement's Government Reform Ideas. Now, this video is going to be on law enforcement. How we're going to deal with private sector law enforcement within the full CRA structure. CRA structure is competitive governance. It's a new idea about letting people be governed by the governing agency they want to be governed by, and people having choices, roughly 12 choices. So also about splitting power into 30 sectors. We'll talk about all that. Let's describe the whole Constitution. But what we're doing is proposing a new Constitution for the United States of America, and that will also replace the state constitutions and actually create local constitution. All the same Constitution, 3 levels of government, every government being labeled either the federal, the one federal, the many states, and the many local governments under each state. So let's go through it, and then we'll go through the law enforcement, how it deals with that. Probably about 7 or 8 minutes worth of overview. I've done a lot of overviews, so I'm going to go kind of quickly through this. So you can go through the longer overviews where I do about an hour long for all the overviews, or many different lengths. Most videos come with this. So this is May of 2021, between February and probably end of June, maybe even going into July now. I'll be doing a couple dozen videos. I already have probably 2 dozen videos under my belt, with another about dozen to 20 more videos to go to explain this new Constitution. A lot of different avenues I'm taking to explain it. A lot of ideas within this Constitution. So let's go through it real quick. Here is the 30 sectors I was just talking about. Top level elected leaders per sector. No one person is elected to be over top of family law and also the military. Over top of education, and also in charge of environmental law. In charge of transportation, and also in charge of manufacturing. In charge of prisons and land and water. All these things have different specializations. So people who really know prisons, they need to be running for the prison legislative and executive positions. People who really know the military, they run for those. People who are great at being a diplomat, they run for that sector. City, state, and federal. All 3 levels have all 3 of these. Obviously, some of these have more relevance at the federal level, other ones at the more of the local level. So we explain each sector in depth. Everything's on my website, and let's keep on going. So within every sector, okay, this is the law enforcement or the violent crime mitigation system, how it's all explained here. Let's go to this one real quick. Within every sector, so law enforcement is going to be one sector. We're going to have a law enforcement at the federal level, state level, and local level. Within every level, we have 12 or roughly 12 different distinct governing agencies. These are called competitive regulatory agencies. All you need is 5% of your citizens or fellow members of your geographic area, city, state, or federal, to join together with you, and then you become a competitive governance. You create within your group, your private group, a competitive governance. So it's semi-private, semi-government. You just get your 5%, and then you get represented and governed and regulated by the group that you chose. My neighbor, if they choose a different group, they get governed only by them. My group never affects their group never affects my group, unless we start having negative externalities, and then it goes up to the sector board level. So I have a whole system to stop negative externalities. The rating system over on the other side is a mirror view of the CRA. It's the same setup, but it's to give high quality information from a wide variety of perspectives, and to take care of the negative externalities by putting rating floors. You cannot have standards so low that you're injuring other people. So we have a system for this. So a lot more I want to say about it, and a lot more in the overview. So let's keep on going real quick. Within the Constitution, we have a section called citizenship, general laws, bylaws, or internal governance of organizations, federal, state, and local, how that's separated, original authority, which level of government, and which level of the CRA structure has the top level authority, and just the teaching of how we even have laws and the like. Supermajority, anything at the monopolized governance level, needs to be at 70%. That keeps a lot of things at the CRA level, not the monopolized sector board level. The parent sector board, how that's structured, The CRA sector boards, how that's structured and what they do. Everything around this Constitution is built around the competitive regulatory agencies. That's 90% of what we're doing here. Only about everything else is built and structured to hold the CRAs up to make that work better. Not too much power goes out of there, but there are a few instances where it needs to go to a monopolized level to stop major negative externalities or work together to fight off foreign foes and the like. The rating system, that I talked about that for a minute. There's a lot of videos on that, but that high quality information from a wide variety of perspectives, and that it deals with fraud, abuse, and neglect and the like. So it's highly important, and it's going to be important within law enforcement. And the rating system is going to keep a lot of law enforcement from not respecting civil liberties. So they need to respect civil liberties, and the rating system is going to be part of the mechanism to stop that, or stop the infringements on civil liberties. Taxation, how we deal with paying for everything. Most of it's going to be the CRA fees that you choose to join. And everybody has to join a CRA, but you get to choose which CRA that you want to join. How to deal with that, going from our current system to the new system, and going from government ownership from almost everything to everything going to the free enterprise system, or at least the CRA system. Pockets of freedom, that deals with immigration and foreign policy. I'm not going to get into that right now. I got videos out on that. A lot of good information there. States partial acceptance per sector. That's to help get this thing passed. And the separation of responsibilities and authorities into 30 sectors. Again, every person who with an official authority can only belong to one sector at a time. So we get rid of welfare altogether, go to a charity system. Foreign protection system, we split legislative, executive, and judicial branches into 5 sectors within the foreign protection system. Really innovative ideas within that. Violent crime mitigation system, that's what we're dealing with right here. I'll explain every one of these in a minute. Let's go over the other 15 real quick. Here you see 5 on the screen, 5 more on the screen, 5 more on the screen. All others are going to have their own videos. I have write-ups on my website about all that. So, competitive regulatory agencies. Again, let's discuss what they do, because they're highly important. You have to choose one. You don't have a choice. You have to be governed. You have about a dozen choices. Again, all you need is 5% of the citizens to join together, and then you have this. But you have to join it. You have to pay for law enforcement. You have to pay for everything else we're doing, but you have to join it. But they regulate, they govern, and they send representatives up to the sector board level. This is a city, state, and federal, so it's highly important to keep all those things in mind. You see it on the screen right here, how that all works. And again, if you haven't looked at that, you might not understand it. There's hour-long videos about how the CRA structure works, and just the whole structure, all the clauses surrounding that. And that's highly important to understand. You might not understand some of the things I'm going to be saying in this video if you don't have a full grasp of this whole sector. Hopefully this gives you enough to understand it, but it's important to go back to the CRA structure videos, and talking about that, I believe it's Sector 8, I believe it is on that one. Anyway, here's a violent crime mitigation system. We define violent crime, and that's the prosecutors for Sector 11. Law enforcement are the people actually with the guns. Law enforcement authorization, you have to be approved by 70% of representatives of 70% of the people within your geographic area, whether it's local, federal, or state. Local, state, or federal. The court system is the judicial authority sector, so that's highly important. You have to understand that they're going to be the court system, and the judges have certain powers that we give them within this Constitution to protect civil liberties and the whole court system. The rating system has a lot of authority to protect and make sure things don't go out of control by rating floors and the like. That law enforcement authorization is so important. If they pull a badge, you're out. You don't have that law enforcement authority. You can't be a police officer or detective. They're pulling your badge. The prison and corrections system, all of this stuff is free enterprise. Court system, free enterprise. Everything's free enterprise. That doesn't mean just a free-for-all. That means you have to respect the norms. You got a lot of free enterprise benefits, but you have to protect civil liberties, protect some norms and the like. But you can increase productivity, efficiency, rules surrounding evidence and stuff. There'll be a little bit of play on what you can do, but to a large degree, that's respecting civil liberties. But you can have a lot of different ways to do a court. But you always have to have a protection of civil liberties. And if people don't like a certain court, they're going to not hire that court. They're not going to go with that CRA. So it's important to understand the free enterprise system and people's decisions on what they want, what they don't want, who they're going to hire, what CRA they're going to belong to is going to be the biggest accountability. But that law enforcement authorization. Okay, we're 10 minutes into this, and we're going to get to the law enforcement, but without that structure around it, you don't understand what we're talking about. Again, you pick the law enforcement agency that you want. These could be private sector law enforcement companies that are regulated by a CRA, law enforcement CRA, or the law enforcement CRA can have a, whether we want to call it socialism or not, because socialism is within their CRA, within their membership. That's like calling an insurance company socialist because they take care of the people within their memberships, within people who pay the premiums, within the contracts. But because it's a private sector company, you can call it free enterprise or you can call it socialism. It's kind of both to some degree. But you can have two different business models. One with the CRA, law enforcement CRA, that hires the police officers, or the CRA that regulates several different police businesses that you can go and get your contract with. And then 90%, 95, 98% of what you're paying for that police business, and only a little bit to that regulator that regulates that police business. So either way, they still have to get that authorization to be an officer. They're still regulated, but it's just different business models you can try out. So then the rating system is going to give you high quality information from a wide variety of perspectives. So it's going to have a dossier on every single cop out there to make sure you understand who you're hiring. You get to hire who you want to hire. So if one police company, police business has a reputation of being thugs, don't hire them. Hire another one with more responsibilities and accountability, more respect for the citizens that they're protecting. But thugs are going to be taken care of in many different ways. Raiding floors, protection of civil liberties, people can pull their badge. You're not going to have a police officer who can be a thug. Not very long, at least. They're going to be found out. There's a lot of ways to find that out. The law enforcement authorization is going to be kind of in charge of that, police, internal affairs, and the like. Plus a lot more. Okay, so you have to understand the different breakdown of all 5 sectors and what they're doing. Let's get into some actual clauses now. Sector 25 CRAs must have a continuously open and rapid accessible system for authorized law enforcement personnel to gain criminal record information regarding the CRA members' law enforcement encounters. Okay, I'm going to stop there, then I'll finish reading in a second. Sector 25 is your identity sector. They're going to have a database open and accessible with personnel there manning it 24/7. No doubt about it. And they have your police records. And the police are not going to have all the records that they have now. The police are going to have to justify and swear to that they saw somebody swerving, that a certain test was positive for somebody drinking and driving, a certain evidence that somebody needed to be apprehended because a witness said that they assaulted them or created battery. They need to reach certain thresholds. And their word is good enough because that police officer's word is going to have to be backed up. And if they end up lying, their badge gets taken. So there's going to be accountability. So police officers, they're not going to want to lie. There's going to be a lot of feedback or a lot of information coming in. If they found to have lied, they're going to either get punished and demoted or full badge removal. So they're not going to be able to lie. High levels of integrity are required for a police officer. So that's going to be job number 1. But then they don't get to have all the information about somebody's police records and everything. Sector 25, your identity company has to have an accessible and open system for the police officers saying, I met this benchmark, give me more information. I met this benchmark, give me more information. So that's all going to be worked out within the regulations. And your identity, not the perpetrators, if you want to call them the perpetrator, a person's identity company is going to protect their information from a all-knowing, all-powerful government from this coming down and oppressing you or whatever. I went a little bit off script there. But what I'm trying to say is the police officer is going to have to follow certain guidelines to be a police officer. And the Sector 25, your identity CRA, is going to have give the police officer the information when certain thresholds are met. So let's keep on going. Law enforcement must log all encounters that reach rating floors established thresholds in the Sector 25 system within 24 hours. So what I'm trying to get at is a lot of accountability. If the police officer does wrong, they're going to get fired or arrested, get charged, whatever the case may be. They're going to be accountability is what I'm trying to say. They're going to have accessible information only when they need that information with established thresholds. Every person with inherent government authority within the violent crime mitigation system must gain authority from the LEA sector board and pledge allegiance to the LEA leadership. You have to get 70%, or let me state it correctly, 70% representatives of 70% of the people within your geographic area, whether it's local, state, or federal. So it's a high bar to get a badge. You have to go through the training, you have to go through internal affairs, you have to go through an ethics inquiry, make sure you are legit. And but if they can't staff up because nobody can get 70%, then the rating system, that's a negative externality, and the rating system can put a rating floor on that and make sure staffing happens. You put more money into training, more money into accountability, more money into these people, higher pay to get you higher quality people to be police officers. And the rating floors are going to be highly important. The role of prices is highly important, and that role of prices is so incredibly important, but that's also going to go with the role of the rating system, the ratings, and putting the role of prices and the ratings together are going to get you the right level of funding, the right level of educated police officers and training and physical training to scenario training to everything. So we don't want to spend 99% of our budget on police officers, obviously, because then we live off 1%. When 1%, we don't get to eat and everything else. Everything is just going to police officers. But we also don't want it to be 1/10 of 1% where we're not getting enough police coverage. There's a balance. That correct balance is going to be the role of prices and rating system. Both of them are going to work together very nicely to get the right level of police officers, the right level of training. Again, we can't have 20 years of training because somebody's going to be 40 years old before they can even start to be a police officer. But we also don't need to have it one day of training and you have a novice go out there and violate a lot of civil liberties and not do the things the right way because they're not trained. So there's a balance in there. That rating system and the role of prices are going to be there. Spent a lot of time on that, but that's so important. Current government infrastructure and assets will transition to the free enterprise system. So everything's sold off. The government owns nothing. Competitive governance can own something, so your CRA can own something, but the overall monopolized governance does not own anything after this. They can rent, the sector board can rent a little bit of office space, and that's about it. So that's going to pay off the debt, but the cop cars, the prisons, the police stations, they still need to be used. The court buildings, they still need to be used. So the system's still there. And there's a way to keep on using those. They just change ownership to private sector. They get bought. Publicly traded companies to a large degree. I'm sorry. So there's a system for everything. Okay, the violent crime is Sector 11. They're going to define violent crime. This video is going to be in law enforcement, and okay, 20 minutes into it, I'm getting into this. I know I did clauses. I know I did a lot of stuff, but here are the clauses for the law enforcement. Okay, establishing a sector is meaning they get the 12 CRAs to 12 RAs, or 12 rating agencies. So that's what establishing a sector is. And that sector has responsibilities and authorities now. And everybody has to join a CRA within that. So it creates that full structure. The purpose of the law enforcement sector is to regulate law enforcement and first responders. First responders, it's going to regulate probably firemen, National Guard, and the like. I'm not sure exactly to how far of a degree it's going to go out. The parent sector board will decide that. But right now, it's law enforcement and first responders. So this same avenue can be used for firemen and the like as well. We're going to have a lot of cooperation. Every entity must purchase law enforcement from a regulated law enforcement business. So I say use entity because I use entity in my constitution with a very precise definition. Is person or business or organization. So businesses have to hire police contracts as well. Hire police businesses have a police contract as well. Okay, so when you have businesses probably spending just as much as citizens on law enforcement, they're going to be taking half the cost. So it's not going to be that expensive. It's going to be just as expensive as it is now, most likely. We'll probably get a lot more productivity out of free enterprise than we do government monopoly. But I'm not saying we're not going to have productivity gains, but we're most likely going to spend roughly the same amount of money we do now. Just because we don't get taxed for it doesn't mean we don't pay for it. We pay for it within law enforcement contracts. And we get to choose where our money's going. I don't like that law enforcement business. I like that one better. I have about 12 different ones to choose from. I get to choose it. I give them my money. They're fighting for my business. Just like all the different businesses for cars or clothing or fast food or restaurants, they're fighting for my business. And they're fighting for it by giving me better service. So these law enforcement agencies are going to say, I'll give you better service, come with us. Pay us the money for law enforcement contracts. I'm better than they are. That competition is going to make things a lot better. And free enterprise is not mean, by no means. I think I said it many times. It's not a free-for-all. They can't just do what they want to. They have to be trained. They have to stay within norms. They get better productivity, better contracts, and the like. But there's a lot there. But it's not a free enterprise. There's a lot of accountability, as I've been saying. The law enforcement sector's rating system must set a rating floor sufficient for proper funding and proper law enforcement levels. So, if the contracts are not getting enough money, it's not getting enough law enforcement officers out there, the rating floors will go up, contracts will have to go up. 25% of the rating floor level, that's a bottom level, must be funded by citizen head tax. So everybody has to pay. No doubt about it. We don't want just the rich paying for it, because if the rich just pay for it, they're hiring all the police. The poor don't get that police coverage, or they're not getting that decision on that police coverage. All the police, I'll say it in a minute, but let me say it right now. The police have to protect everybody from immediate danger. After the immediate danger, your law enforcement company comes in and does a detective work and does a follow-up. But the immediate danger does by anybody holding a badge within regulations. We'll get into that in a second. So, citizen head tax is the first one. Everybody has to pay a percentage. That's at the rating floor level. 25% of the rating floor level needs to be done on proportional real estate tax. So now we went away from a little bit of head tax to somewhat of a proportional tax, because millionaires have $1 million houses. People who make $50,000 a year have, let's say, $200,000 houses. I know I didn't do the numbers exactly right, but so the rich are going to be paying some more, no doubt about it. They have more to protect, so 25% needs to be done off, because you have a little bit more to protect. Even though that's your house and the like, But even for violent crime, that's why we do 25% for citizen head tax, because everybody has to be protected from violent crime, and every life is worth the same as somebody else's life, no doubt about it. But the rich person needs to protect a little bit more land, a little bit more property, a little bit more of the stuff. So at the rating, and most likely the rich people are going to go with the higher levels of service and higher cost of law enforcement anyway. So they're going to be paying more than that anyway, and that's going to help everybody out. If the rich person has a lot more law enforcement out there, and the law enforcement has to protect everybody within immediate danger, that's going to help everybody out. So, but anyway, so 25% is a proportional real estate tax, and let me see. Okay, yep, 50% of the rating floor level funding must come from proportional sales tax to the business-owned selected Sector 12 CRA. So a big store that's doing $1 million a week business, which is a pretty good business, they need to pay higher levels of taxes because they have more to protect than a small business. Let's say do $100,000 a week in business. They have a lot less sales tax, so they have less to protect. But anyway, so that way we're going to have police out there. Every road company, we're going private road company, is going to have a police contract to monitor the roads. Now, they're going to be the same police officers that's going to be protecting your individual lives and the individual homes, but they're going to be out there with part of the police contract with patrolling the roads. And they're going to have police contracts to protect a lot of different things. So we're going to have a lot of police out there. So just because somebody's patrolling the road and they got hired to patrol the road, that's only part of the contract. They have to leave that road and go help somebody who called 911 and they got attacked or whatever. They leave that road. Part of the contract is when you're not doing something else, you're patrolling the roads. You're protecting for speed traps, not speed traps, I don't like speed traps, but protecting, make sure speeders aren't going or reckless drivers or and the like. Anyway, so those numbers can be moved around a little bit before this goes into constitutional law. We'll have to have a decision on what's going on there, and maybe the percentages can go up or down, but it's one thought pattern right now about how that is. Now, would that give a $1 million business more protection than a smaller business? Maybe a little bit, but they are also paying more through sales tax. So, but the business owner gets to choose which police company to use. Sector 12 CRAs may charge more than the rating floor level. So it's important to understand that that's rating floor level. Rich people are going to want more protection to a large degree, just because, hey, they buy bigger cars, they buy bigger houses, they get better than the minimum all the time. And when you're richer, you do buy more. And that's going to help out the poor just by having more police around. They're not always just sitting in front of the rich person's house, by the way. A rich person doesn't just have a contract for a police car to sit in front of their house. That's silly. Unless you really pay extra to have personal protection, you're a public figure that have death threats, then obviously you're going to buy a contract like they do right now with private security. But that private security is going to have actual badges, a governmental badge, or at least the better ones will. Okay, if a rating floor put it this way: if you want to do law enforcement stuff, you have to have a badge. If you want to just play law enforcement off to the side or something, you can't really do that. You have to show your badge. That is highly important for society to know. If somebody comes up with, quote unquote, a badge and a uniform or whatever, they need to be readily available what their level of authority is. If it's just a mall cop, they don't have much authority whatsoever. If it's a master detective, they have a number on their badge or stripes or certain stripes, then you have to give a lot more respect because they've been vetted. They have a long history of doing the right things, and they're not out there just harassing people. They have a long history of doing the right stuff. Okay, did I finish this one? Let me see. Okay, If the rating floor on the crime rate set by the VC sector is exceeded, so if the rape or assault or murder rate is too high above the rating floor, these rating floors for funding need to go up. We need to have more law enforcement out there. And there's a lot of ways to take care of high murder rates and high crime rates. One is keeping people in jail longer, fix the court system where the perpetrator is not let out so easily. You have less acquittals for people who are actually guilty. We don't want to go into convicting people who are innocent, but there's a lot of things we can do to make sure somebody's found guilty who was actually guilty, not letting so many innocent people go. That's a major negative externality, is to let a rapist out to rape again, a murderer out to murder again. We need to make sure that doesn't happen. Okay. Law enforcement sector's rating system must set a rating floor sufficient for cooperation to attain joint patrols and joint higher level law enforcement organizations. So, let's say there's 12 within a city of 100,000 people, 12 law enforcement businesses. Or a law enforcement CRA can be regulated by a law enforcement CRA. A law enforcement business regulated by a law enforcement CRA. And there could be several of those underneath that one law enforcement CRA. But ultimately they're paying fees to that one CRA to regulate them. And they have to abide by all the rules. Or you can have a police that just hire all the people that they do it. There's different business models is what I'm trying to get at. Anyway, if there's they have to supply, if you have 12% of the people or 12% of the money coming in, you have to supply 12% of the personnel for patrol cars. And then you still get a patrol car is going to protect everybody within their zone of protection of their area of protection. So a neighborhood is going to have, let's say, 100 houses in the neighborhood, and all those 100 houses are mixed between the 12 different police businesses. Well, one patrol car is going to go in there, and they're going to protect everybody within that neighborhood to a large degree. They're going to have more, obviously, one police officer takes care of more than 100 house neighborhood. But what I'm trying to get at is, not all 12 CRAs are going to have to send a police car into that neighborhood. One joint patrol. And they protect the people within immediate danger. Then after the home invasion, assault or whatever, then your police business comes in and does the detective work. So there's be regulations regarding everybody with a badge has to respond and protect anybody within immediate danger. Now, that's going to be a lot of regulations. What happens if they're off duty? What happens if they're off duty but in their patrol car going home? What do you do when you're just out there at a restaurant with your family and your police officer? What do you have to do? What happens if you're sleeping? All those things are within regulations and will be dealt with. And then one police business, they might be a big police business that spans 10 different counties, 10 different cities. And they have patrol cars, but that police business does the hiring contracts. And they're normally going to have one person in that one city or that one part of that city because they know that city well. But if they have to, they'll get people from another city to come over. It's the same police business. Anyway, so we're not going to be monopolized per city anymore. We're going to have several different police companies within the same city. They all have to cooperate. There's rating floors on cooperation. They're going to have to help each other out, back each other up. When a 911 call comes in, everybody with the badge can hear what's going on within regulations. They hear what's going on. They have to back up each other. There's no doubt about it. Immediate danger is different than after the fact. After the fact, the detectives from your law enforcement company has to come in. Then the higher level law enforcement is going to be more like the higher level detectives, the FBI's, the State Bureau of Investigations, and the like. The crime labs might be a joint cooperation, maybe at the sector board level, but I want to keep this crime labs to the best of our ability, not to go to the monopolized level, but more cooperations where, let's say, 3 of the CRAs are using this crime lab, 3 are using this other crime lab. Several cities can join together to merge together for productive productivity and efficiency measures. Anyway, there's a lot to get into, but the free enterprise system is going to work all that out. And police businesses wanting the business of others. If police businesses do not have a good rate of settling the case and solving the case, then they're not going to get the business. The rating agencies are going to say, this police business solved only 12% of the cases, this other one did 40% of the cases, and this other one had 80%. Now, we need to check on the 80% to make sure they weren't doing fraud. And there's going to be a lot of ways to do that. But if one's solving 80%, one's doing 12%, you're going to want to do the one with 80%, as long as they're accountable. Okay, so the cooperation is going to be mandated within by rating floors. And protecting everybody within immediate danger is going to be mandated within a regulatory framework. Every law enforcement officer and every law enforcement business, two different things. Your business hiring a whole bunch of police officers, doing police businesses, and then the police officers. Both of them have to be approved to hold a badge, to have a badge. Must protect everyone regardless of membership within their mandated regulations. So immediate danger is different than afterwards. And then afterwards, you're going to want cooperation. One police business is going to say, hey, I hear that you have some expertise over here, so help me out, and then I'll help you out. That cooperation is going to happen because at least the police business I want them to have cooperation with others because they're going to have a better solve rate than somebody who just wants to go all on their own. Okay, let me read this one. The Law Enforcement Sector Board must set conditions in which and to what extent the Law Enforcement Sector Board's elected leaders are authorized to command law enforcement CRAs. So this is like the police chief or the top sheriff. All the CRAs are going to have to get together, all the citizens, all the people hiring the police businesses are going to elect the top leader, top executive leader, the top police chief, the top sheriff. It's still elected leader because they're top elected leaders. But they don't have the authority on a normal basis to command all the police. There's going to be requirements for some cooperation. So on a weekly basis or something, they're going to have to get together, compare notes, go through meetings, and a lot of different things. Have email system to everybody, or communication system to everybody to make sure everybody's on the same page. So that's the mandated cooperation, or at least a rating floor cooperation. Okay, so, but big things are going to happen on occasion. Or let me say it again. Natural disaster, a flood, a tsunami, something's going to come up and do some major damage, and we're going to have some coordination. Hopefully we can do it with this coordination and cooperation, but when certain things happen, a riot happens or something, then we want the police chief to be able to command all the law enforcement officers within his jurisdiction, within the state's jurisdiction, the local jurisdiction, or whatever. And so there'll be agreements from the different cities to bring in the law enforcement and have flex for flex capacity for one city when they have a big need, and another city when they have a big need. So, however, not to exceed 10% of the management. We don't want the police chief to have greater than 10% of the management because we want each CRA to manage their own, but that cooperation is going to be highly important. And 30% of the rating system may lower sector board command authority. So we want to keep that command authority of the police chief low. Only when big things happen do they get that command authority. Again, that cooperation is still going to need to be there. And that rating system's it doesn't take 30% to lower it. it's like that's more of a 30% to increase it. It flips the other way for cooperation because there's a lot of negative externalities when they don't cooperate. That cooperation is key, especially to get joint patrols or jointly work together. So they will have to jointly work together when you're on patrol and somebody else needs backup. Oh, just because they're not hired by the same police company, no, they have to go help them. They don't have a choice. They have to go help them. You get called over and cooperation and the whole 9 yards. If you don't back them up, you might lose your badge. That police business might not do it. You're going to have to explain yourself and find out what's going on because backup needs to happen. Okay, I'm going way too far into rabbit holes here. Let's see. The rating floors may regard appropriate cooperation among police CRAs. So again, it's going to be natural to want to cooperate anyway. Sector 13 is law enforcement authorization. That's so important with this. Nobody can go outside the norms. Nobody can be openly racist. Nobody can be openly whatever outside the norms because you need 70% to give you that badge. If these law enforcement officers get too political, they're going to probably not get that 70% needed to keep that badge. So they're going to not have to be so political. They're going to stay within the norms, or somebody can pull that badge. Well, all it takes is 40% to pull that badge away. Representatives are 40% of the people. The court system is Sector 14. Once a perpetrator is caught and arrested, they can go through the court system. I have a whole section for that. I'll be doing videos on that. Sector 15 is the prisons. Okay, video is pretty much over with now. Here's how it relates to all 30 sectors. Here's the 15 first sectors and 15 of the other sectors. It's always important to come back to this. Your police CRAs are going to be hired right here. Over here is a rating system, and that's going to be highly important to understand. They're going to give you high quality information. With good information comes better decisions by people, more informed decisions by people, and more informed decisions by people. The citizens paying with their contracts, what contract to go with, creates a situation where the bad is going to be put out of business. Just like people who are bad at restaurants, they go out of business. People like to go to a better restaurant. People who get really low scores, ratings on their police work in many different areas are going to lose that business. So, anyway, that was about 43-minute video here. And we have to understand how this whole thing works. So free enterprise in many areas, but nothing's 100% free enterprise because you start getting into some negative externalities. But right now it's total socialism within the police system. Well, I say it's total socialism. There's a lot of private law enforcement out there, from personal protection to corporations having police, to a lot of there's a lot of private law enforcement out there right now. But this is going to change that dramatically by having official government badges to do official things, and that's going to be important. So look at the overviews I have. Look at the CRAs, especially the CRAs. Look how I'll be doing videos on how civil liberties are protected. That's going to be coming up pretty soon, end of I think May of 2021. So I'm doing a couple dozen videos between February and probably June or July of 2021, and then we're going to get the website updated to with all these videos. So please consider a donation for Haley2024 The Movement. I'm trying to do this all on my own right now. I would love to have a social media person start getting these ideas out there. And until the next video.